of sharing our 2024-2025 state report card. I'm really excited because we have a lot of amazing data to share, and we have some amazing opportunities for growth. So I think kind of balancing both and sharing all the great things happening, but also reminding ourselves that we have a lot of areas that we can still continue to grow. As you know, our motto, value the past, invest in today, and elevate the future. I think what you'll see is our state report card really does align with our district's vision of investing in our students, valuing what we have done that has worked, investing in our students, and in order to elevate the future for our district. So we're really excited. You're gonna hopefully see that our state report card and our areas of opportunity will align to our three major goals for the district: whole child success, future ready learning, and wellness. So I'm gonna kind of talk about throughout this presentation what we're already doing and what we're going to continue to do to elevate our state report card data. I'll start with our overall rating. So Jonathan Alder had 4 stars last year, so that's that overall picture of the district. We have added another half of a star, which sounds small, but it's really big, and I'll show you kind of the difference across the state of Ohio and kind of where we fall in comparison to other districts across the state. I would say that if I was to tell you why we gained that half of a star, it really goes to this progress measure, which to me is one of the most important. That measure, and I'm going to talk about it in a bit, is how far we've grown our students from where they came in to, when you measure like a year's worth of growth or more. So we added a star in that area, which bumped up our overall rating as a district. And I'm going to go into each of these components so you'll be able to see kind of how it all fits together. When you think about that 5-star rating, each component carries weight. So achievement and progress have the most weight. Those each have 25% of the overall district report card. And then graduation, early literacy, college career workforce, military readiness, and gap closing have 12.5% of the state report card. So just keeping that in mind when you look at where we're performing overall as a district. And then when you look over here on this side, this is just all the districts in the state and kind of how they fell out. So percent of districts statewide that have, I forgot this was a touch screen. Percent of districts statewide that had each of that level of stars. So you can kind of see down here that only 23% of the state has 4.5 or 5 stars. So we fell within that top 20 to 25% of districts across our entire state of Ohio, which to me is a huge celebration for Jonathan Alder. And you can see kind of where the rest of the districts fell. So most districts are falling in that area of 3.5 to 4 stars, and then 25% and a much smaller percent down in 2 to 2.5 stars. Make sense? Okay. So if you kind of notice here, this is our achievement, and achievement, as I said, carries 25% of the weight for our state report card. And our achievement was 4 stars, which means we exceeded state standards in academic achievement. And that's looking at where a student is at one point in time. So that data point is that test, that data point in time. This is a graphic that shows where we were in 2021 all the way to 2025. And as you can see, we've gained almost 5 performance index points in the past since 2021, which sounds like not a lot, but it is really showing that we're raising achievement year after year, and each year it's steadily started to increase. And I think what you'll notice last year, what increased the most is this highest level of achievers, which is our Advanced Plus, and you can only get Advanced Plus if you are in an accelerated course. So when we added those math pathways last year, we really bumped up our overall number of students who are being challenged and pushed and performing at a much higher rate. And so I think if you look at everything else, it's pretty much where it was, except that portion right there, which is a huge celebration. And again, it reflects back on this table sitting here, the ability to have staff that would allow us to have those math pathways. We could not do that if we did not have the staff to make it happen. And so thank you for allowing us to have our gifted staff and to add those pathways here in Jonathan Alder. Any questions on that? So these are just the achievement levels. Here is the limited. So you can see we have very few students that are scoring limited. Most of our students are scoring here in the accomplished, advanced, and proficient. So that's where a bulk of our scores are all here in proficient, accomplished, and advanced, which is the highest levels of achievement. Okay. And again, I just wanted to kind of show you, and I'm going to send this out to the board with some documents to go with it, so that you can kind of see what all the technical. I know you want to read the technical documents that go with it, but it just shows you the percent of our students that fell into each of these categories, just in a different type of a visual.
Can you send the historical on that as well?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Just
Yeah.
the bar chart. The bar chart's a little.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Any questions on that? And I asked our teaching and learning department to please jump in with anything that because I never look at my notes and then I'm like, darn, I forgot to say that. All right, so I would just say right now our current performance index is from the 2024-2025 school year was 95.9, which represents strong performance statewide in comparison to other districts, and even other districts that are similar to Jonathan Alder. All right, the next measure is progress. Sorry, there's a glare, I can see that over here. The progress component measures the amount of growth made by students compared to other students like them across the state. So it's a very complicated measure that I have tried for years to understand. That's why we have people like Dr. Tom Fry that can help us out. He understands it better than any person I've ever met. But it really is this very complex measure of looking at groups of students and how they performed in comparison to our students that are similar and how far they moved up on the measures. Progress is the one area where it has historical data included. So 50% of the component is current data. But then the other 25 and 25, the other 50% are the previous year's growth and 2 years of growth before that, which that does matter because we have had a couple of grade levels that have had some trouble with growth, but last year made huge gains. But we aren't quite going to be able to see that in our data yet because it's 3 years worth of data, if that makes sense. So hopefully we'll continue to see our progress measure just continue to go up. All right. Again, feel free to jump in if I'm missing something. This just shows kind of how the progress is determined. So our growth index is 7.18, and I'm going to show you, I think I have the graphic in here that shows you kind of where all that data comes from. The effect size, again, I wish I had Tom here today, 0.08, which gave us our overall rating of 4 stars, which is significant evidence that the district exceeded student growth expectations. So 4 stars is, in my mind, is wonderful. I'd say the bulk of the state, when I looked at the data, fell within like 3 stars. So, you know, anywhere above 3 is exceeding what the state would expect, which is wonderful. This is, and again, I'm going to send this to you so you can look at it in more detail, but this just kind of breaks down our growth across the subject areas and grade levels. And what we're looking for is, let me go back. What we're looking for is these colors, the dark bluish gray, light blue, green, yellow, red, and this kind of like pale blue just show that it's not where we want it to be. So we do have a couple areas that we are concerned about. We've already started working on supporting those grade levels, those subject areas. We've already been working with Dr. Fry to determine, you know, what could be causing some of this not positive growth, some negative growth that we've seen, and we have hypothesis of why that's happening, and we've already started to put things in place to correct those areas. So again, you can kind of see this graphic, but this color here is the highest growth that you can have. Sorry, and I'm not very good at this touchscreen. So we're looking as much of this color as we can get, but also the green and this lighter blue all are positive growth. So you can see most of our district, most of our grades, most of our subject areas have more than what we would expect growth, but then we have a couple of pockets where we're just really trying to dig in and figure out what we can do differently.
So the report card is from results from last year, is that right?
Yes, so the past school year.
Okay. And so this is measuring, is it measuring from the beginning of the year to the end of the year?
Remember, this is a 3-year average, so
Okay.
it's 50% of this is from the most recent school year, and then 25 the year before that, 25 the year before that. So
Okay.
like a good example, 8th grade has red, which is, 8th grade ELA is red, which is not positive. But last year, their growth was positive. 2024, 2025, they had positive growth.
Well, they would have been 7th graders last year, right?
I'm sorry, this is measuring the 8th graders that were,
Current freshman.
that are currently freshmen now.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah.
We put things in place last year. We hired, we had a coach from the ESC of Central Ohio come in and work closely with our 8th grade teachers. We saw major gains in that area. That was one thing that we did. We also worked with Tom Fry to look at specific data, to dig really deeply into the data to figure out what's happening. You know, why, it isn't necessarily because they're not great teachers. Sometimes it's because we're spending too much time on one thing and not enough on something else that might matter more. So that's kind of what we're seeing, is we need to work on pacing in some of our grade levels. So again, this grade level, 8th grade ELA, had positive growth last year, but you're not seeing green or blue yet because of that 3-year average, if that makes sense. That's just one example. Okay? Yep. All right. Feel free to jump in. Anybody good? All right, the next area, and probably the one I think Mrs. Detweiler might have said this in her email, the one that we probably feel the most proud of is gap closing. We have 5 stars, which is the highest number of stars that you can get in gap closing. And gap closing shows how well our district and our schools are meeting performance expectations in ELA, math, and graduation. It also measures how we are reducing absenteeism, supporting our ELL population, identifying and serving our gifted students. So it's kind of it's a big measure that takes all of those pieces and parts and puts them together. And JA earned 5 stars in this area, which means that we're significantly exceeding state standards and closing educational gaps. 2 areas that I will tell you we are looking very closely at are our English language learner population. Becky and I were talking just this afternoon about an idea that she has. This is one of the areas where we did not earn points. And I'm going to show you why here in just a minute. The other area where we did not earn points, and this was an all or nothing part of the measure, so when you look at gifted, we earned 0 out of 5, and I'm going to show you why. But those are 2 areas we're just looking at to see what we can do differently, if we need to add anything, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But having 5 stars is pretty amazing, so we're pretty proud of that. All right, this part of the graphics show performance index by student group. So it pulls apart the data, it disaggregates it into different student groups. And I know this is tiny, but if you are to look closely, you can see all of our student groups that we have in JA are included down here. And then you can see where the goal was, so that's the little yellow dot, and then where we performed. So we met or exceeded the goal in every area except one, which is this very light color, which is our Hispanic population. So we know that that is an area that we have to look at and try to figure out what is happening or not happening for that population of our students to make sure that their needs are being met. In mathematics, we exceeded for every population we exceeded. And I think that probably some of that goes to the language component, that math is not as complex when it comes to the language.
Yeah.
So, and you're gonna see that in the next measure as well. So this is growth, and this is the benchmark that we're trying to reach, this long yellow bar. And again, you can see that for our English language arts, our students with disabilities, our EL population and our Hispanic population did not quite meet the growth that we would have wanted them to meet. So again, that's the area that we're really trying to determine what we can do differently. Our district leadership team and our administrative team are looking closely at some strategies that we can be putting in place. Again, for math, you can see this was the goal, and look how far we exceeded in mathematics for all of our subgroups in JA.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for Tolles, when Tolles gets a report card, it's for the whole CTPD. Is this similar where our students from Tolles are also fed into this equation?
So our students from Tolles would be on here for any measure that they would have taken. So our half-day students that take their core courses at JA would be in here.
Okay.
Nicole, I might have her in a minute when we talk about college career workforce. We can count the work that Tolles is doing for our JA report card and vice versa. They can count it at Tolles for the work we're doing. I'll show you that in just a minute. But our Tolles students would be in here if they took an assessment.
So it's only if they're taking classes
Correct.
at Alder. So if they're
Correct.
taking classes at Tolles, they would not be included in this?
Correct, because they wouldn't be taking these classes that would be measured by the state, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Carla, excuse me, how is growth measured on an individual basis? Because you might have a kid that does tremendous growth, but they started so far behind.
Yep.
How is that taken into this?
So when we look at, so that's the difference between achievement and growth. So achievement, those kiddos might show that they're in the limited category, but for growth, they might be in our highest category if we've closed that gap or moved them along further than what would be expected. So what Dr. Fry does with us, with all of our teachers and our principals, is he helps with, we can look at for every student that's in JA, where is their predicted score going to be? Or where would
Their
that
predicted
predicted?
growth.
And then we're trying to take them as far past that score as we can to get them to grow more than what would be expected. So we are already looking at that data right now and trying to figure out, well, if we're only expecting the kiddo to be here, what are some things we can put in place to grow them even further? So that's the difference between achievement and progress. They might still be in one of our lower categories, but yet might still be making
Okay.
a lot of growth.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
I know it's a lot. Okay, this is our gifted, and I wanted to make sure you saw this because we did not get the points for gifted, which is pretty disappointing, because our gifted performance index, we had a 119.5. The maximum is 121.1. We had a 98.7 for gifted PI, with the goal being 97.5. We met that. We exceeded that. For gifted progress, we had 5 stars. The goal is 3. We met that. What we didn't quite meet is for under gifted identification and services, what we're finding is that, well, first of all, there's only 89 districts in the state of Ohio that met the gifted. So if you looked at the 700 state report cards, you would only find about 80, I think Dr. Fry said 89, that actually got the 5 points here. And that's because most districts do not serve kids in kindergarten, first, and second grade, because we don't test them until second grade. And so in order to capture those points that would be needed to hit the indicator, you would have to completely change your service model. Hire more gifted teachers, do early identification, which research shows is not always the best. A kindergartner is going to test very different than a second grader. And so it is something that we're looking at and paying attention to. And I don't know that yet we think that serving our kindergartners, testing our kindergartners is the best model when they're just learning school and we're just trying to get them started. So it's definitely something we're paying attention to, but this is the part we did not meet. The great thing is that you can see the growth that we're making. I'm sorry, I don't have the years in here. So back, that 114 down here, this is 2021. So this data is 2021, 2022, 23, 24, 25. You can look across the board in gifted and every measure is going up. So gifted PI back in 2021 was 114. We now are 119.5. Gifted PI percent, it wasn't measured here because of COVID. It was 96 here. We're at 98.7 now. Gifted service, which is the one we did not meet the indicator, back in 2021 we were 37. We're now at 45.9. And that's mostly because of the work that the board has asked us to do with adding gifted services. So I anticipate we'll continue to see this grow every year. And it's very hard to meet the measure because of just the way the measure is structured. So that's something we definitely are paying attention to, advocating at the state level for some possible changes in that area, just because it's almost impossible to meet it unless you, I hate to say, kind of play the game to hit it. And gifted progress, we've met every year as a district since 2021.
Aside from earning a star,
Yeah.
is there any value in meeting the metric?
I think there's always value in serving kids wherever they are, even as 5-year-olds. But it would be a philosophical, do we believe that we're going to get the best test results if we use up one of our group testings in kindergarten versus second grade? We test in second and fourth now. You have to test in certain bands. So the first band is K2. So we decide as a district, do we want to test K1 or 2? I don't know of any districts that test anywhere except second, just because they're just probably not ready to take a standardized test at K. I hate to say no, there's not value. I think we are doing a lot of things like what you saw in here to serve our high level thinkers. But do we think that we have to have pull-out gifted services or at grade K and 1 or 2? I'm not certain that.
Could you say maybe it's not as concerning?
I'm not concerned when I look at this measure.
Right.
It's disappointing because I think we're working so hard in the
Yeah.
area of gifted. So it's disappointing that they're not recognized. The state doesn't recognize it in the same way they recognize other measures, but definitely not concerning. You can see
Yeah.
these are the measures and we're heading in the right direction. This is our last two pieces of gap closing, and one is graduation, and we have 4 stars, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But the one area that we are not meeting the mark for graduation is our Hispanic population. So you're hearing a theme here of an area that we really do need to pay attention to. We're just right outside of it, and so that's something that, again, Mrs. Crowell and I have been talking a lot about and thinking about what can we do, what should we do differently for that population of our children. There's areas where we're exceeding the graduation rate, but that is the one that we have not met the mark.
How does that play into, we had 100% graduation rate last year?
I'm gonna talk about that in just a second.
Okay.
And just say, I wanna show you the measure,
Okay.
Erica. Chronic absenteeism is the other piece that we look at. This is something we are paying very close attention to as a district right now. It's something I've talked with Dr. Miller about, that I'm gonna be sending you some more information about. We had a 15% chronic absenteeism rate last year. And chronic
That's insane.
absenteeism means that we have, so a student that is missing 10% or more of their school hours is considered chronically absent. So 15% of our students were chronically absent last school year. This is not unusual. The state is way above the 15%. Not acceptable though. Our administrative team and district leadership team really truly have said this is the area they're most concerned about. And so we are going to be doing a lot of things to try to move this measure in the right direction. I sent out, just as an example, I sent out today to all of our building leaders and our building secretaries where they are as a building today with chronic absenteeism, so they could start paying attention. So we highlighted the kids who would be considered chronically absent if we were looking today, and asked that they're paying attention, checking in with those families, checking in with those students. The state of Ohio is placing, there's new, House Bill 96 has new legislation that that Mr. Hooley and Mrs. Walker will be looking at, because there's a change in the attendance policies that will have to be made based on House Bill 96. And so this is something we are paying very, very close attention to, because we know when kids aren't here, they can't learn. And so we are trying to figure out what we can do to support those students who aren't here earlier, rather than waiting until they're habitually truant or until they're really far behind.
So it's like 18 days a year, right?
Yep.
Roughly?
What's that number without seniors in it?
I will tell you, our high school is by far, so let me give you just a comparison. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but Plain City Elementary had about an 8% chronic absenteeism rate last year. The high school had 22%
Yeah.
chronic absenteeism. And so, and they're aware of
But
that.
seriously, can you take seniors out of that equation?
What about the definition of chronic absenteeism does not include, it includes all absences, including excused absences?
That's a great question. So the difference between chronic absenteeism and then what we've always been reporting, which is habitual truancy and excessive absence, that's kind of going to go by the wayside. That's really a punitive way of looking at attendance. So habitual truancy and excessive absences are really transitioning to chronic absenteeism. Chronic absenteeism includes every day you're out. So medically excused, doctor's notes.
So someone who's getting braces and is consistently going to the
Yeah,
orthodontist
it's
It's
during the
all
school
being,
day.
it's all being
Right.
factored in.
Gotcha.
So
Or
this
what-
is a new state terminology, a new state standard that they have come up with, defined by the state, with the idea that we're gonna get kids to attend school more often. It does not take into account the fact that some of those kids who are in that group are doing great in school.
That is absolutely
Right.
accurate.
Right, all right. Some of the state standards are, I find a
And
little
I think that's
infuriating.
where some of our administrators were like, oh, Because we always look at attendance data without the medical absences, because we
Right.
never had to really pay
Right.
attention to medical absences. But I think what the state's philosophy is, you're still not there. So you're still missing out
Missing
on
class
your
time.
education. And so it's really a philosophical change.
I get it, but
But this, I just want you to know, and you'll hear me talk about this later, this is an area we're paying very close attention to this year.
Yeah, but the orthodontist, you could schedule right after school.
If you can get
if
there.
you don't have a sport.
Right.
Oh, my goodness. Sure. Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
right. That's
You're
true.
not gonna miss sports, and then they're not open after sports are done.
Or is it if you're missing?
So
Yeah,
the
that's
seasons
true.
you're in sports, you can't.
You can get your credits and your
We
grades.
can try to do super early in the morning, but even then.
Unless
You're
you're
still
not
missing
online.
school.
Missing something.
Yeah, because they're not open till 9.
Or over their lunch.
No, I'm
or
taking forever,
whatever.
I'm sorry, Dr.
Not every kid can go over lunch.
This just shows you, and I will send this to you
Fair.
again.
That's
I
fair.
want to send this to you because this is just a little deeper look at our chronic absenteeism. And again, we're 15%. 16.4% was the state goal, but I want to show you, this is where it's going to become like, we met the indicator, we're good, it's positive, but next year, so 25, 26, this year, 14.5% is the goal, and then 12.6% is the goal. In 30-31, the state is saying only 5% of students.
Oh, come on.
chronically absent.
That is so unrealistic.
What are they gonna do exactly? Arrest kids? Like, arrest parents? Like, what? I don't understand.
And the truth is that they'll just give us a lower star rating.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
I mean, one of the
This-
things, Carla,
This
It'll be
measure
your measuring.
plays into the gap closing measure. It doesn't necessarily,
Okay.
it doesn't play into like the overall rating. But when Mrs. Kroll, she's doing this a lot, pulling the data, and we are noticing that there are certain subgroups of our students who are missing school the most. So students with disabilities, our English language learners. So we do need to pay attention to, take out this. What are we doing or not doing to support those children to want to be here at school? So what can we do differently?
Yeah.
And so that's really the approach we're
Oh,
taking is,
well,
okay,
that's
let's look
fair.
at who
But
the
some of
kids
it's,
are.
but some of it's manageable, but some of it's
That's
not
right.
manageable, and there's
Right.
nothing you
And-
can
and-
do.
And is it even reasonable to ever get to 5?
now the only thing I would say, Carla, is sometimes it's good just to, these are state measures, which don't always apply nicely to every school. And
That's
so sometimes in the past, we've come up with our own measure that we're looking at, just to measure our growth. I mean, we want to see growth, we want to see improvement, but what's right for Alder?
Yeah.
And I would certainly support that in some areas like this.
That's good to know.
So if you want to create your own
Great.
goals, is what Steve's saying, and report that next year alongside the state goals.
Yeah, I mean, we've done that in the past. You know, I mean,
So
what's
what I
right for
will bring
Alder?
to you next year then is I can start to create a graphic like we have for some of these and kind of have you see kind of where we are. We're very similar to last year with this measure. It has not gotten better, has not really gotten worse. So I do think it's something we definitely want to look at though.
Well, and
I
maybe
would
if you
love to
do-
see a comparison of excused absences versus
And I have that, that's what I
unexcused.
pulled for the
Right.
bonus today, so.
Well, and if you parse out subgroups
Yes.
as well.
That is all in Aubrey. We're getting all of that in Aubrey, so we're looking for like early warning signs of absenteeism. Graduation, I just wanted to I didn't want to forget to say this, especially since, and Erica asked this, but information for graduation and the college career workforce measure is a year behind. So if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Because it allows, so to your point, it's looking at the year before's graduating class.
Gotcha.
So it's always
Okay.
going to be a year behind. Same for the college career measure,
So we
which we'll talk
improved.
about here in just a minute.
So we improved.
So last year's graduating class, you'll
Yeah.
see a 5-star rating for
Right.
sure. Like
Okay.
that's,
Gotcha.
we do have 4 stars in graduation. Grade percentages, 95.9% weighted percentage between the 4 and 5-year graduation rate. We do have some students who did not graduate and they did not attend Jonathan Alder. So sometimes you might have a student with a court order to come to Jonathan Alder that doesn't actually come. I'm looking to Becky because she knows more about this than I do, but we do have cases that can really impact our graduation rate. And those are, while they're disappointing, that's the way it works, so.
And additionally, sometimes students with disabilities have the right by law to defer graduation if they've not met
Right.
additional requirements for graduation, and they can have education up to year 22.
And that
So-
counts as
and that
them
counts
not
against-
graduating, even though they're
Legally,
still going
they
to
have a right
graduate a
to
year
have
later.
education.
Right.
So-
Okay.
So that could be another reason why
Huge.
it's not exactly 100%.
Okay.
Mrs. Detweiler, just,
Yeah.
I guess I would like to piggyback on what Mrs. Kroll is saying, is she'll come to me if we have a student that is in this position, and we make a determination on what is best. Is it best for this student to attend another year, or for us to lose 2 points on our graduation rate? And we're always going to do what's best for every
Yeah.
individual student. So this
Yeah.
is a prime example of where we did what's best for the individual.
100%. And that program is great. So let the stars be what they are, but as long as we're doing what they need, I think that's
I'm not
important.
taking way longer than I was given time. I'm watching that timer right there, so I could.
It's fine.
That makes, I
We
thought you
knew.
kept looking at Michael
We
for
knew.
affirmation.
Don't write that one. Our next measure, and this is another area where we are well aware that this is an area we want to continue to work on and grow, is our early literacy measure. We are meeting the state standards in early literacy, and we haven't yet seen the benefit of some of the things we've put in place
Yes.
over the last year.
Yes.
So the area where we are having the most difficulty is that proficiency in third grade. So we only had 70% of our third graders proficient. Definitely something we believe that the MTSS process, the multi-tiered system of support and ABRE, will make a difference. 100% of our kids were promoted. This is an area where we're really proud of the growth we've made, and I'll show you. Improving literacy. Back here, 2019, 37, 24, 34, 27, 42, 50. So you can see over the past 3 years, we've had really steady increases in improving early literacy. Promotion to fourth grade, we've always been really high there. But this is definitely the area where we are looking at what can we do differently to ensure that our students are all prepared and reading. And so that's something we're definitely paying attention to and talking about every time we meet for MTSS. Multi-tiered systems of support. The College Career Workforce and Military Readiness measure this is the first year that districts actually received a star rating. 3 is the most common star rating. Nicole knows more about this than anybody I've ever met so far. 3 is the most common star rating that districts are getting. And really, again, I just want to say this because we're so fortunate that our board, our administration, allowed us to hire Dr. Strock into this position. And you're not going to see in this report card any impact of her work. And in next year's report card, it's still not going to be measuring this year. It'll be measuring last school year. So while I think we'll still see a slight increase,
You won't see stars increase, you'll see percentage increase.
we're hoping to see the percentage, but we might not yet next year see the 3 stars. A couple things, and Nicole's going to jump in if I mess anything up, but this is a one-to-one measure, so students can earn more than one component, which I'll show you in a minute, but they only count once. So you're basically taking the number of students who received a yes, and I'll show you that in a minute, divided by the number of students in that 4-year graduation cohort. Then that gives you your percent, and that's what the star is rated is
Gotcha.
based on. So you might have a student that meets it 6 different ways, but they only get to count once.
Yeah.
And then you might have a student who doesn't meet any of the criteria.
Gotcha.
That's right. And the reason that the 3 is common is that the state determined that schools that the year before, when it wasn't counted, raised by 25%, their number, even if their number was 27%, they gave them a 3.
Oh,
So they rewarded their lift, their improvement
yeah.
with a 3. So you'll see
Gotcha.
so that percentage that's associated, we earned it by the math there, not because we improved by 25%. Right.
Gotcha.
So then you can just see here, and I'm going to send you this because I know it's tiny, but the score. So, in 2019, we were 52.5. We're up to 70.1. And that's based on the work our high school team, and Nicole has credited our counselors many times for the graduation seals, which is where you think the difference.
I think it came from the Ohio Means Jobs
Oh,
work that they
yes,
did.
that's right.
We did some really significant work there, and I think also the intentionality towards scheduling the College Credit Plus classes and adding College Credit Plus classes to our student options have both been, I think, significant contributors to that. Also, our TOL students, we have to separately add their credentialing in, but any 12-point credential that's completed by a TOLS student, TOLS gets that on their report card, and we get it on ours. So they earned it at TOLS, but they're our
That's good.
student, and if they don't earn it, we also get them docked against us. So when TOLS is successful in that, the students are successful, we're all successful.
And Nicole, I think this is wonderful for you to know, she's working very closely with Kathy over at,
Kathy Corbett.
Kathy Corbett over at TOLS to make sure that both TOLS and JA, and they're just learning a lot from each other.
And part of the reason we're always going to be a year behind is that even up to last
Right.
week, Kathy said, hey, we just found out that these 2 kids credentialed this summer. They passed their cosmetology or whatever, and so we added those in. We found out that a student had taken an apprenticeship that we didn't know about. Just things like this, we are able to gather that in until end of October.
Oh, nice.
So we do anticipate in the future, in the next few years, you're going to see big gains in this area just based on the work that Nicole and the high school team are doing. I mean, every day she's telling us some of the things that they're working on, so.
I strongly believe that is going to improve our attendance.
Agree. Agree.
The more we grow that.
Yep. And so
It's
the
gonna
areas
help.
you will definitely see, and Dr. Fry made this graphic for me. We didn't have any pre-apprenticeships on this we don't see it because we didn't have any, so we had none. But you will see that, not for next year's data, but the year after, we have multiple kids in
Yeah,
pre-apprenticeships.
I
here
did
at
see
JA.
that.
So those are where you're gonna start to see, I mean, 'cause College Credit Plus, they've added all the College Credit Plus classes at Alder, taught by Alder teachers. You're going to see an increase in that area.
Yeah.
Nicole's team is working really hard on ACT preparation. I believe strongly that you're going to see a huge impact from the work that our teachers are doing under her leadership in that area. So I know, again, I'm way over on time, but I wanted to just share a few of the areas of opportunity that we feel strongly that we have to, and it really, to me, it's not about the state report card, it's about kids. And so to be able to provide our kids with the very best opportunities that we can. And some of these are you've heard about all of these, but implementation of our multi-tiered system of support in grades pre-K through 12. We are having data conversations like I've never heard. They're just amazing. And so just knowing that we're talking about kids and data in the way that we are will make an impact. Nicole's team has an audit of college, career, workforce, military readiness to identify areas of strength and opportunity under that umbrella. So that audit is currently happening right now. We've added College Credit Plus courses taught by JA teachers, and we'll continue to add those as we have opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
And that's a huge benefit to our students and to our taxpayers.
Saves us
because
money.
it's saving taxpayers. We saved taxpayers almost $1 million
Yep.
in this 1 year because of College Credit Plus.
Yeah.
ACT programming is happening at the high school under Dr. Schrock and the high school principal's direction, and they have a lot happening. We
Bless you.
were able to purchase a program that allows our teachers to provide those supports to our students. And Nicole has said this so many times, it's really not about gaming the system, it's about giving our kids opportunities. So colleges or whatever they want to do in their future, it's really giving them those opportunities. We're reviewing our attendance policies and procedures in grades pre-K to 12 to really look at that chronic absenteeism measure. Our K to 2 teachers are immersed, nope, no K2 here right now, but immersed in professional learning in the science of reading. So monthly, they're in a full day professional development, really targeting that area of the state report card to allow our kids to be the strongest readers that we can have. Our 3rd and 4th grade team is involved in gifted professional development. So again, we want to support our teachers so they can support our students. And so those are 2 areas that we've added in the past year of professional learning at the elementary level. And that is all I have.
That's good.
Great.
And that's the only